Hi everyone, welcome to week 4, effective communication with young people, and we're looking at some interviewing skills. And I suppose within interviewing skills, it's one of those things where you just build them up as you go along. And I don't think anyone's a natural interviewer. I think you kind of get a handle on it as you go along, because it's all about, as we touched on last week, how you're using open questions, closed questions. It's about the tool belt that you have and how you use those tools seamlessly. And, you know, I think that when you're an interviewer, when you start to get clunky or you go a bit too far, it can really put off whoever you're interviewing. And so normally we interview people to elicit information. And so that information that we want to elicit is really about what's going on for them and in their lives, so we can perhaps interject, guide them, or assist them to fix some issues or address some issues in their lives to better themselves. And that's why they're probably sitting in front of you as a welfare worker at various levels. They're asking for assistance, so you're their tour guide. You've got the tour guide hat on, and you're cruising along, and you're helping get to their destination, right? That's the mission of the welfare work. And if you can do that in a seamless way, they feel really good. It's like lifting the weight off their shoulders, and someone's on board. And it's a position of trust for you, and so it's a position of power. So we don't abuse that power. We make sure that we respect that with clients. This week, what we're going to be discussing is we're going to look at 4.1, Appendix 4.1, and it's interviewing a young person as a client. And so we'll go through, have a little bit of a read of it. Now, what's that one? I'm not sharing my screen at the moment. I don't know if you guys have printed any of this out or had a read of it yet. Have you read ahead and looked at some of these things yet? On the week 4 space?
Yes, I looked at the interviewing one.
Groovy. That's good. So that's saying it doesn't want to work. There we go. We got it. Right. So sharing a screen as we do. So interviewing a client is as different to having a conversation. Is different to having a conversation with a friend. And so with a friend, you know, guards down. You're not really, so worried about how you are and what's going on for yourself so much. You're really kind of just floating along. You're quite natural. When you're talking to a friend, you've got that trust. You know them, they trust you. And so you're really at your most probably natural, I'd say. Although you'll see some of the same skills, there are some important differences between a conversation and an interview. So when interviewing a young person as a client, the youth worker is in a position of responsibility, and he's there to help the young person to meet their own needs. It's also important to remember that you're there as a representative of your organisation or agency. So you basically walked into work, and whatever some of your personal issues are, you metaphorically hung them on a hook, and you've uptaken that organisation's mantra, their mission statement, their philosophies, etc., and that's what you're representing. So they might be very similar to your own, and that's why you picked that organisation to work for. But I'm sure there's going to be some differences. You know, not every client that you deal with, you're going to say, I agree with what you're thinking. So you put your own personal things aside. You have the workplace's mantra and philosophy on. When interviewing a young client, the following skills and attributes are important. So we're introducing ourselves appropriately. So how might that go? Either Amanda or Tanya. What would that mean, introducing ourselves appropriately if we're working for an organisation? And I'll pick, just say we're working for Anglicare and you're in a resi unit. How would you introduce yourself? G'day, how are you? You know, Would you run up and say, "Oh, I can't cope. I'm going to go off and have a giggle"? No. What would you do?
I would give them my name and, you know, tell them I'm
Yes.
a worker here. Blah, blah, blah.
Great start, yeah. So you give them your name and you're a worker? That's right.
And what I do.
Yep. Say, "Hi, how are you? My name's Amanda. I'm one of the Resi workers. You know, great to meet. So, look, we're going to be going through a bit of an interview, and then you probably go through some of that, what's going on." Or you might say, "So your name is such and such, yada, yada, yada," create rapport, and you're here because you're staying here for the week, month, year, couple of years, I'm not sure, but, you know, you'd add all that in. It's that first 10-second rapport. And say, "How are you doing that? What are some of the tricks of the trade you're going to do in that first 10 seconds?" You do them every day, I'm sure. We're just breaking down the tools now of what we do, just so you're consciously aware of it.
Maintain eye contact, have open body language, don't be defensive, smile.
All those key things. So they're floating around, but now we're always aware of them, but we really get them down pat as tools of the trade. So we do it every day. These are things we do every day. But when you use them as tools, you use them to better effect, because it becomes part of your clinical armor, becomes part of your clinical sense. So as a worker, we step into clinical roles. And so we're breaking down everything that we're doing. And it sounds really basic, but you kind of break it down and then you rebuild your clinical stature in a lot of respects in how you talk to people. As I've gone along, I believe more and more in it. When I'm talking to a client, I just switch into a different personality. I'm more on guard. I'm more in tune. I'm really focused on that person, and that's a real big difference for me to when I'm just having a chat with a mate or my family or that. I'm just like, yeah, how are you? I'm not too worried about how I'm acting, what my face is doing. I'm not into that at all. But when I'm talking to a client, I'm conscious of the words. I'm conscious of my body, as you were saying, Amanda. I'm conscious of my stance. I'm conscious of all that because, I'm representing an agency, but also I'm wanting to engage with this client. And in that transaction that I'm about to do with that client, I'm wanting to make them feel comfortable and comfortable enough so we can progress to whatever we're doing. So if it's the first interview or, doing case plans or whatever it might, or I'm listing some issues that they have so I can work out how I might be able to assist them. Whatever that is, I am really switched on into them doing that. And that's part of those tools that you start to sharpen up as you go along. But to a client, once you apply them, it looks like they're just talking to a friend virtually because I'm really engaged with them. But really, I'm applying all my tools as I go along. And so you're introducing yourself appropriately. You're showing interest in the young person and concern for their needs. You're acknowledging that this might be an unusual type of conversation for the young person because you might ask questions that are fairly prickly, really. In that interview, you're going to be asking some questions that might delve into what they feel might be quite personal, but you wouldn't ask questions that are out of scope for what your service is about to provide. But some of those things are going to feel quite personal to people. That's why creating that rapport is, a must. It's like going into the doctors, and they say, "Oh, right, take your top off," and you go, "Jesus, I don't even know you," right? You're going to feel really awkward. And so you'd like to get a touch of a rapport with a doctor, especially if they're of the opposite sex. You go, "Oh, yeah, how are you, soldier? Yep, this is what we're going to do." We want some explanation of what's going on and why you're being asked to do that. What's the rationale? Provide useful information in appropriate ways. Use active listening and reflection. Ask open and closed questions appropriately. Use non-verbal communication effectively and appropriately. Adapt your communication strategies and skills to meet the client's needs and the young person's age and stage of development. So that adapting your communication strategies and skills to meet their needs, that's the pitch. So if you're about to go and give a talk or engage with anyone, if you go, just say you go to the letterbox and an elderly lady's walking past that letterbox. Do you go there and go, "Soldier, how are you, man? What's going on?" You know, yeah. No, you would adapt straight away and go, "Hi, how are you?" Do you notice how we do that automatically? Oh my goodness, I'm getting phone calls during sessions. Sorry. But, you know, you would taper how you address them automatically. And that's the same with clients. Your pitch changes with the age or developmental age of that person straight away. And it might change with what you're aware of. If someone has a mental health, sometimes mental health, so you're making sure you're really clear and solid. And so explanatory, or if someone's got an ID perhaps, where, you know, they find it difficult to understand concepts, so you might reword things in different ways or simplify it to suit their needs perhaps. But, you know, whatever you're doing with whatever client, you're trying to perceive the need and adapt. So when we go back to that basic communication transaction, do you remember what that was? When we start talking about communication, what was it starting to talk about? What is every transaction having it in communication? Encoding and decoding, yeah. So whatever your audience is, you're making sure you encode your particular message so the audience, so the audience can decode it. You're encoding, you're picking the audience, who they are, etc., so they can decode it at a comfortable level for them. So that's where you're adapting your communication strategies. Be respectful of the person, their culture, religion, sexuality, etc. Minimize conflict and tension. You know, I always say, have you ever been into a bank or with a salesperson, right? They're there to serve you. Have you ever been involved where you kind of get into a bit of a tiff with someone who's actually selling you, or while you're someone gets a little bit uppity, and you kind of go, what's going on here? You're supposed to be the salesperson. So really, on their end, they should have been minimising all the tension, etc., because they're going to lose out on a sale or they're going to ruin their customer service. They're representing their organisation. So, you know, sometimes it's good to remind them, "Soldier, the customer's always right." You know, I believe it is the mantra. As long as you're not doing anything untoward, really, that salesperson should always be adjusting how they're discussing things with you, because they represent their organisation, as you would as a welfare worker representing your organisation. So encourage self-reflection, validate the young person's feelings and concerns, and check whether the young person has understood what has been said. How do we check that a young person might have understood what we've said to them, or that we've understood what we've said to them? Oh, they've said to us, sorry.
Repeat back what they've said in your own words.
You're using that basic reflection, aren't you? So when you say this, you said that you know, you've been away from home for the last 6 weeks, and that's mainly that's due to the fact that you've had an argument with your parents, and it got quite aggressive, and they wanted you to be at home at a certain time. You're refusing to do that. Now you're 38, and so therefore you think that you should be out at any time you want. They say you still live under my roof, so you by my rules. But nonetheless, and they go, "Yeah, that's right. I'm 38 now. I should be allowed to go at any time I want." You know, and maybe that is a bit of an exaggeration, but it's probably a real thing that happens with teenagers, where there is that conflict where teenagers think they are about 38 and they can do what they like, and the parents are going, "Well, actually, you're only 15, soldier, and so you're still under my responsibility and care. So for me to ensure that level of care, I have to ensure you're at home at a reasonable hour." But, you know, sometimes there's a disconnect in what parents and teenagers think. It's the way of the world. It's not unique to Australia. That's for sure. And so there's some of the key things that, you know, we have to consider when we're interviewing young people as clients. So how do you think interviewing a young person might differ from other types of interviews with other cohorts?
You mean like a job interview or something?
No, other types. So let's call a young person interviewing a young person a cohort. So a cohort's a group, right? So from other cohorts, how might that differ? What might be particular to that cohort, you think? It is thinking,
Maturity.
yeah, maturity, and so developmental theory, yeah. So where they've come from, what they've experienced to date. What other things?
Very.
Yeah, yeah. Throw those wild and wonderful thoughts out there. What else do you think? It's an awkward moment, isn't it? Do you want me to throw a couple in there just to get you going? So a young person, it might be that you know, what might be different is that they might be under the age of 18, and so therefore they're classed as a child. So your questioning or line of question might be really different from that of an adult. You might be a little bit more respectful of what's going on in their lives, understanding that they might, because they're not independent, they live with family. Some of the concepts and things in their life would be really different, and so some of the interviewing, you would assume that they might not, or they would have a lower level of independent living skills. So they're a whole raft of things. They wouldn't do washing. You know, their hygiene might not be up to scratch. There's a whole range of things that they're going through. They just might not understand some of the concepts that you're talking about because they're not mature enough, as Tanya was saying, or they haven't been exposed to them yet. So these are some of the things that you have to consider. But also, I suppose, how you engage them. What do we find with a lot of young people? What do we know about their attention spans sometimes?
Short.
Yeah, very short.
So with being short, so your interviewing technique or how you interview them, it's probably not going to be what I'm doing now, which is long-winded, you know, very explanatory. You want to be short, sharp, get the point across, and so make sure they understand the concepts and, you know, go with them. But also, another thing is that if they're expressing themselves or disclosing or anything else, they need to give them time and space sometimes because they don't know what's going on. And so a lot of feelings are quite new for them that come up. So you're adjusting, you're adjusting all these things and knowing, well, they're kind of this, and there's confusion and unknowing, but they're trying to explain what they're feeling, and there's a disconnect with being able to use the words, how they feel to what they're, you know, saying, and how to put that together in an expression that you as an adult might really go, you know, I don't feel that good because this has happened to me, and be able to do that more succinctly, where it takes a longer time for young people to come to those conclusions because they're still joining feelings, what's happened, you know, all those things together. They're at a stage in their lives where that's going. Have you watched yet the YouTube clip Family Secrets in Psychotherapy?
I haven't, not yet.
Was that both of you know? Sorry?
I watched that. That was a short one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched that.
So I'll throw that. All right, let's allow. Yep, we're going to allow that. I'm just going to see if I can get it to pop up now. It's only 4 minutes, so we might watch that really quickly because I just want to ask you a couple of questions. Oh yeah, I remember this one. Classic, the old American accents. They're great. All right, I'm gonna crank up my sound so it comes through speakers, and also you can hear it as well.
I'm really glad you could all come in today. I would be interested in hearing really from each of you what you think is going on in the family right now.
Well, Galen's been getting in trouble at school, and it just seemed like the last straw. I mean, just things that have happened in the family.
What about mum's
Just
hairstyle?
one more thing. I don't have time for this.
Well, none of us have time. You know, we're working, we're busy. We've got Megan who gets ignored, and
It's
just,
Justin Bieber.
you know, one
look,
thing
I think.
after another. The last straw was his teacher calling the other night that money had been taken off her desk. And Galen says he didn't take it. But I'm about to wipe my hands of it. We don't know what to do. He's grounded for 2 months, and what more can we do?
What did the teacher say you happened when she confronted him about the money?
She just said that he's out of control in
First
class.
child, use language you didn't use at home. I just don't understand.
How long would you each say that this has been a problem for the family?
You know, it's getting worse, but it's just been going on. It seems like since maybe 4th or 5th grade.
Gail and I have had something going on with us for, sometimes it's okay, but just seem to just get at each other's throats. But there are times, and it seems like it's been forever.
You know, when you say there are times, I find sometimes for families there are specific time periods when a problem gets worse or gets better. And I wonder, just if you reflect over the last few years, are there special times or certain times when any of you notice that the difficulty that you're struggling with gets worse?
And it seems like school always starts out okay, the start of the school year. And I don't know what
Fresh
happens.
beginning, it's like it's a new start.
But, within a few weeks, it just something seems to go on.
So more towards the end of September, beginning of October, is that kind of what you would say?
It seems that way.
Have you noticed that, Galen, that some of the difficulties that you're struggling with get worse in October?
Not really.
Uh-huh. What do you see, Megan? What happens for the family in October?
Wasn't that communicative, that the young fellow
I'm
there?
glad
Was
you
he?
decided to come anyway, because, in my experience, when there's a problem with a child, like there is with Galen, sometimes it's good to have an opportunity just for the adults to talk. So maybe we could use today to talk about things that perhaps would be hard to raise with the children here.
I don't know what you'd have in mind.
I guess I'm wondering if there are things in Galen's history or in the history of the family, in the relationships, that you've had a hard time talking to him about that maybe we could spend some time talking about today.
Well, there are some things he doesn't know about and doesn't need to know about. But do you want to talk to her about that? I don't know if it has to do with this.
I don't know. I guess we could.
This is just
We're alone
Yes,
anyway.
it is. Yeah, please, go ahead.
Well, it's probably important for you to know that, Ray is a wonderful father, but he's not Galen's father. He's Megan's father.
I see.
But I was married a long, long time ago, and Galen's real father died when Galen was 6 months old, in fact.
How did he die?
It was a car accident.
Right. Let me just pause these. That was like a trip back to the 80s a little bit, wasn't it? But within that, I suppose the context of what we just watched is something that we can at least look at. So, do you think that was a good example of an interview? Thinking about the young man. So,
No.
yeah. So what do you think? What do you think was going on for that fella?
Well, he was withdrawn and totally disengaged from the whole conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you think the interviewer had something to do that particular person's style of interviewing? Do you think that might have been the reason?
Yeah, and maybe the dating of it as well. Maybe they did things differently back then, had more of an emphasis on the parent's view rather than the child's.
Yeah. And so, really, what are some of the other things that that person, the interviewer, did that didn't engage the well, even look, you had a whole family there.
Hmm.
Did you think that was a bit strange as well?
Yeah, because he might have been hiding stuff from the parents, and then when they're there, he's certainly not going to open up if there's something he doesn't want them to know.
So the scenario was there was an issue at school, I think, and some money went missing, and so the teacher came and then said all sorts of things to the parents, and the parents were shocked, and then all of a sudden the parents are sitting in front of someone and they're discussing those issues. You kind of had this. There was a loss of power, really, wasn't there? Do you think there was a power imbalance in that entire scenario? You could see in that young man's demeanour. He was, head down. He was just, I'm going to get out of here. Everything's about me, how bad I am. I'm guilty. Maybe people don't understand me. I don't know what he was doing. His body language was certainly, I'm not going to engage with anyone. And so, as an interviewer, what do you think should have happened? What could have happened?
In that scenario, or
To change, what are some of the things that you might have tried to engage that young person, perhaps to make it very different from that scenario?
spoken to him alone?
Yeah, with
Away from the parents.
with
And
the parents' permission, obviously, depending on the age. Saying, look, is it okay if I speak to young Johnny alone, just to get a sense of maybe his point of view? And so then it's all about him. And to get, if you got Johnny in a room and he was, like this, and you're interviewing him, how might you, what tools, or, even at this stage, what might you try to engage young Johnny? Think about the most difficult person you've ever spoken to, and you're probably in the right zone. What would you, if you had to speak to the most difficult person you've ever met who did not want to speak to you, how would you broach them?
Well, I probably let them know that I'm not, I'm neutral, I'm not against them or anything, and I'm totally open to what their side is.
Yep.
And I'm just there to help them.
You know what, perhaps you should consider exactly what you said a while back when you meet a client. What did you say then?
What I do.
Yep. So you'd say, hi, my name's Amanda. Look, this is what I do, da-da-da-da-da-da. And I'm here, just to listen to you and to understand what's going on for you. I'm certainly not here to judge you, but, I know just by the way you're sitting, I know that you don't want to be here, and I acknowledge that. But I'm really interested in what's going on. So, and where I might be able to help you through this. Again, how you're saying you certainly, don't want to be here, but I want to make it, at least as comfortable as possible, just so we can work through, so we can probably alleviate some of those feelings for you. And in that, I'm just wanting to have a quick chat. And look, you don't have to say too much, but at least maybe for a start, this teacher said all these things. You don't strike me as someone where this might be happening. What do you think? And so sometimes I've just made a little judgment call, and just to see if that young person said, look, I'm not going to judge you, but this strikes me as you don't look like this person. And normally the young person will jump on it. And, I'm not making anything major. I'm stating my fact that I want to assist this person. But, this teacher said all these things. Strike me as that person. Because their stance is like this, when I'm making judgment calls in milliseconds over people, someone, he does not strike me as a, you know, a high level defiant child. He looks like a boy who's going through puberty to me, to view him. And so I will try that approach first. But that's just one of many, just off the top of my head. But really, it's about making that person feel comfortable enough to engage in a conversation so you can start having a chat. But I'm saying all these is just examples of what you might think to do just to get the conversation going in a family sense, but explaining who you are, who you represent, and you're going to be speaking in a non-judgmental way. These are the key elements you want to get out of that interview. Really, so what we're looking at is a situation where that interviewer really didn't give that young fella much time at all, and then went straight on to the parents. They really skipped something, and look, maybe it's to do with how old this video is. I think in modern day psychotherapy where there's issues with young people, it would be great to get a sense of what's going on from the young person's angle, and then talk to the parents and get their angle and see if they're really, you know, at odds. But look, everything, it's great. Some of these interviewing techniques, if you ever have a look in YouTube as well, and look at a few of them, just to get a sense of, you know, different scenarios, how things are approached. It kind of gives you, we live in an age of technology, so we get a chance to view all these different angles, and it skills us up quite quickly. You can see how you can go wrong really, you know, look at some of the ones where you go wrong as well. And I think there you'll see how not to interview people generally, but it is quite a hard road interviewing some young people, and there is a difference between voluntary clients and involuntary clients. And so a lot of young people, depending on where you work, might be involuntary clients. That means their parents have dragged them along. They could be in resi units or under DHHS care. They could be incarcerated. And so they're made to talk to you. And so you're going, all right, we're going to have a chat. And they just don't want to talk to you. It's a really hard slog. Normally when you get more voluntary clients where there's issues as they go on, they'll open up a little bit easier. And, you know, they want to talk to you, and it's how you address them. I think, and always you're thinking about that pitch. I'm just going to see if I've got something for you guys now. I had a handout, and I'm just trying to locate it. An interview scenario. Just bear with me here. Group work scenario, interview scenario. I might not have it. No, friends, I might have to skip that and we'll go back to it. It certainly wasn't in the reading pack, was it? No. Reading, interview, glad to be alive. All right, we'll skip that for now. Sorry, I thought I had that floating really at hand. But look, I'll talk around it a little bit. So interview scenario, within that, sorry, let me find it. I know I have it, and because we'll go through this interview scenario. And it'll only take me a flash to find. And sorry about this. I thought I had it sitting in a file ready to pull out. Right. It's nearly ready. I found it. I went online to find it. That's great. Okay. Right. Way to be organised, Mark. Here we go. So, Troy This is a scenario about Troy here. Oop, let's move that out of the way. There. And so, oh my goodness. Where did you go? All right. So Troy's a 14-year-old boy who lives with his mother, Christine. They recently moved in with Christine's boyfriend, Brad, and Brad's 2 daughters. So we've got a bit of a Brady Bunch scenario going on, bringing 2 families together. And if anyone's ever watched the Brady Bunch, oh my goodness, all the hassles that happen to those poor children in getting to know each other. But we know what we're in for here in this scenario, right? Someone's going to get a football thrown in their nose and, Marsha maybe. So Amy, who is turning 17, and Tara, who are 9. Troy has been getting into trouble a lot lately. He's been truanting school and behind in his schoolwork. So Troy sees his father once or twice a year. That's not much. He's been very close to Christine. We're seeing a scenario emerging here. But lately he's been distant. My goodness. He's been quite protective of her, and she has relied heavily on him over the years. Christine is 33. She was married to Troy's father for a few years, but they divorced when Troy was 4. She was quite young. Since then, she's had a few relationships, but none of them have been particularly serious. Until she met Brad 12 months ago, everything changed. She used to tell Troy that he is the only man she needs. Oh my goodness, Mum. That's setting that young fella up a little bit too much. She was very well Troy was very well behaved when he was younger. His behaviour lately has been worrying her. They used to talk a lot about things, but now he's quite secretive. Right. Oh, I see. That's the scenario with Troy, right? Now, just before I ask you a couple of point questions, what do you think's going on there? Just as a novice investigator and an understander of human nature, what's going on for Troy, you think?
He's not happy with the changes to his family.
Mm.
And in particular, if you had to zero down and make an assumption so you could formulate some questions for exploration so you can confirm your thoughts, what might that issue be?
Sharing his mum.
Yeah, with another person.
Yeah.
3 other.
Has Mum set him up a little bit in that, you think?
Yeah.
We all love our children. I even think my mum said I was the most special boy in the world. I believed her until about year 7. But the bubble's got to burst at some point, doesn't it? So, we all come to a realisation. So Troy, he's just past year 7. So his bubble's just burst. He's going, hang on. I wasn't told a lie, but it was an untruth, whatever the difference there is. And so maybe there's something more in this. The bubble's burst. He's not the only man in their life. So some of the questions, this would normally go into, I'd try and ask people to do a little filmette, but this is not going to happen because it's pretty hard to run off with 2 people and do little filmettes. But some of the things I would do is give you time to do a video conference with other people and discuss things for your character. But we're going to talk through it so you kind of get some understanding. So in this case, Troy, we'd ask him, if you were to formulate a question, what might you ask him as one of your first questions?
How he's feeling about the changes to his life.
Yeah, so before we zero down at that point, would we ask something a little bit higher up, more general?
How is he?
Yeah. So you'd go through that explanation. You'd really talk about what's going on for you at the moment. Have you done any interviewing techniques or communication yet? No?
No.
Some people, it just depends on who's doing what subjects first, but sometimes there's, especially in case management, things like that, there's interviewing. So in this case, doing that is interviews. You'd be doing that higher up. You'd be introducing yourself. You'd be saying who you are, what you represent, what you can do, what you can't do. You go through all that. You talk about safety plans. So when I'm talking to you, if I've got any concerns about you, Troy, I would never disclose anything in our discussions, Troy, except if I had concerns for your safety. Then I would disclose and I'd go up to a level, because within this, I wouldn't want you to harm yourself or harm others. So if I've got concerns over those two issues, I will talk about our discussion. Apart from that, our discussion is absolutely Loctite solid. So first thing I want to know is how, just what's going on for you, Troy. Can you give me a bit of an outline, what's happening in your life at the moment? And so then you might find out some of that stuff, and you might know what's going on. And so then you start to zero in some of your questions. And some of the questions might be after you find out and disclose what you were thinking, Tanya. What might those questions be then? So you mentioned one, which was
how he feels about the changes.
Yeah, how he feels about the changes. What are some other questions just to elicit some information? So that was a good open question as well. How do you feel about changes that are occurring at home at the moment? So could he give a yes or a no to that answer?
No.
So that was a spot-on question. So what are some other questions that you might ask after that, or around that, or instead of?
How he feels about Brad.
So how would you phrase that question, just to give you a little bit of practice?
How does he get on with him?
So is that how do you get on? How do you get on with Brad?
Mm.
Yeah. You got another one for me there?
The girls, how he gets on with the girls.
Yeah, and so how would you phrase that question?
What's it like having two, I don't know if you should say sisters, because they're not actually married, are they? But what's it like having other kids in the house?
Bingo, yeah. See, that's just finding out what's going on. He might go, they're all right. You'll find out just from that question, are the girls the issue, or is it something else? Because he might go, oh, they're okay. You know, they keep to themselves. You know, they take over the bathroom a bit too much, but, you know, yada, yada, yada. You might find all those normal things. But if he goes, I don't like living with those girls, you go, ooh, maybe there's a little bit more than just the mum issue. Something else where they haven't gelled as a family unit. So you can see those questions will really help you narrow out some of those key points that are going on. We have an assumption it's just mum sharing time with Brad, but it could be some other things in that family unit too that you find out along the way. You just hope that we don't find out that Brad's been touching him up in the back shed. That's a bad one, right? So when we drill down, we will find out that that's a notification on the spot if that's occurring. But really, we'll probably drill down to the point that it is about mum. And so sometimes we know what the issue may be. Sometimes, as an investigative journalist or tour guide, as we're going through someone's life, we will find those things out and we'll go, oh, all right, yeah, there's a little bit of interest there. So if you think sometimes, and these are skills that you build up, so I don't expect you to have all of these, but as a practitioner, if you go on to do counselling, if you do many things, if you go on even to do more work with case management or do more work with and want to become a psychiatrist or going down that angle as a psychiatrist or even psychologist, which is a little bit lighter on. But what you would be doing is practicing those interview techniques. And if you look at some of them, as your answers come, you'll go, and you'll be able to sit there and just pluck out little bits of that interview, and in your acknowledgement, look, Troy, you've said this, but can you just tell me a little bit more about this? That sounds quite interesting or worrisome or whatever it might be. Can you just tell me a little bit more about that situation? So sometimes you're taking people on a journey themselves where they're telling you more about that. I think as individuals, we encapsulate thoughts, feelings, memories, and into little parts of our brain, and we're our own self-counsel. And being our own self-counsel as individuals, we don't analyse things enough. Sometimes if we stop, reflect, have a look at those, and as someone who's listening to a conversation, we're able to get people to just concentrate on it a little bit more and give it a little bit more thought. And sometimes they might come to their own conclusions as well. Other times, in Troy's case, we might not get to that point. And Troy may just go, yeah, well, it's definitely Brad and that's it. So then you're going into another thing. Maybe Brad is just the new person. So how do we start to normalise what's going on for Brad? If that's the point and Brad's been probably the main thing, where would you start to take maybe Troy then? What might you suggest to him with Brad? So there's no major issues. It's just that he's the new intruder, and that's what you've come to understand. What are some other angles that you might be saying to or talking with Troy about after that, once you've ascertained that there's no real issue except for Brad is the new person in the house?
Probably ask him what exactly about Brad bothers him.
Yeah. So Brad's kind of a new person in the house, and it's probably hard to adjust with having Brad around. Is that what you're saying, Troy? And if he goes, yeah, that's exactly right. You're on track. That line. If Troy goes, no, that's not. Well, you try again. You look at the tool belt. All right, what's the next approach? But if it is, then you can start exploring it. And how do you overcome Brad being a new person? What are some of the things you might do? What don't you like? You're going through all these scenarios, but you're just respectful. So I think really it's about trying to, in this case scenario, it's about just trying to ascertain what's going on for Brad and where you can take Troy, and where you can take Troy after that. But it is a journey, and some of these things can be quite interesting once you start getting into interview techniques and how you do it. The best way is normally filming yourself in interview scenarios. And I've filmed myself, and I always find that what I think, how I'm going about it, I'm very different. And I go, geez, but it does help. That was really bad how I asked that question, or I was probably a bit tough then when I should have been softer. I didn't apply the Kenny Rogers gambit enough. I didn't know when to hold it. I was, bull at a gate, if you like. And so doing some of those in some classes where we are doing interviewing techniques, and we don't really concentrate on this class, but other classes we do tape and submit video evidence. You get to see how you really are as an interviewer, and it really does enlighten you. Whereabouts are we now? We're just in, I think we're virtually done for week 4, actually. There is a video. I'll get you to watch that as well, and that is Family Secrets in Psychotherapy. I think Tanya said you've watched that one, yes? Is that correct?
No, the other one was Glad to Be Alive. I haven't watched that one yet.
Oh, sorry. There was 5.2 social research, which briefly introduced the difference between. Ooh, sorry, that is week 5. Glad to Be Alive. What happened in that one again?
I haven't watched that one yet.
Okay. So maybe have a viewing of that one. And really, this is just talking about communication again for this week. After talking about Troy scenario, that's all I've got for this week. I think both of you are across the assessment at this stage, unless you've got some questions at the moment.
About the assessment?
Yeah.
I did actually.
Groovy. We love that. I do.
In the first part,
Yeah.
You know, where we're supposed to put the map,
Yeah.
I did it in Google Maps.
Yeah.
You can't put that in. Is it okay if I just put the link so then it takes you to that?
You should be able to copy and paste the whole map in.
Not from Google Maps.
Did I? I'm pretty sure did I put an explanation of how to do that?
No.
You can do a screenshot. Do you know how to do a screenshot?
I can work that out. So that's okay. But I just don't think it's
Well,
really clear.
That's my keyboard. It's an amazing thing. It's got all these buttons and stuff. This one here, where is it? Where it says print screen.
Mm-hmm.
See that one? Oh, jeez. I can't even see it. That is a really shitty way to show you. How about that? Print screen, right? Abbreviation for it. Hit that one and then put it on. You'll get the whole screen there and then you can crop it. Yeah? And you should be able to be right. So the main thing is, so getting what's on the screen is pretty easy, right? And look, I'll show you this at the moment. This is how easy it is. Google, I don't know, what's something amazing? Google Maps. Oh yeah, Google Maps. Victoria. Yeah, I want to look at Victoria. Bingo. So now I do right. So what I've so that is a blank screen. So I've just put up a Word doc, yeah? The only thing is this will look a bit freaky when I do this. So now I'm pressing that print screen. So where you've got F12 on your keyboard, you normally got print screen next to it, yeah?
Yeah.
Hit print screen. And then click on a, let me put this in your line of sight again. Oh, that's the right, where's the blank one going? There it is. I'll get this right in a second. I'm a technical buffoon, but when I get it right, I'll be pretty wrapped. Right? Sorry, I've got a lot of things open on. I've got two screens going here, right? So this is what it looks like, you know, one screen, two screens. So that's why it's, I'm just trying to get all that together, just to let you know. And so then, right, so you get your blank screen, which you can see. So I've got my blank doc. Then I press paste options, bang. Right, I've got them up there, right? So now I've pasted that. So now what I have to do is crop that picture. And so that's when you go into, geez. I know one of these is crop. Online pictures, screenshot maybe. Quickly add a shot of your window that's open on your desktop to your document. Could be that one. I'd have a play with that. But one of them is cropping. I just forget at this point. I've taken you on a journey to this point. Now the mission is for you to work out how to crop that picture, you know, resize it, move it around, you know, that type of thing. And it might be that I can just do this. No, that's the squasher. You have to work out the crop, you know, that type of thing. So yeah, but that's how you get the picture off the map. Geez, I didn't take it too far then. I have to have a play around to remind myself where my cropping tool is. When I'm at work, I've got it sitting in a file, and it's called a snipping tool. And so it depends. Then I just snip and crop pictures. But really, once you go through that view format, arrange split, references, citation, page layout, wrap text, design, color page, insert pictures, appropriate, screenshot lineups. Yeah, and I'm afraid you're probably going to have to just go through and find the cropping tool. Yeah? Sorry. That's how you do
It's
it.
okay.
I'm sure it'll work out.
Yeah.
You know what I find when I want to find out stuff? I ask a young person.
Well, I've got kids, so I'll have to ask them.
There you go. I said, like, oh, it's easy. So that's the. But when you do the Google Maps, I know you can put all the pins and all those areas you can get on the one map, and then once you do that print, you've got it pasted into the assessment format. Yeah. Was that the only question about the assignment?
No, and the other one was about the last part D, with all the different businesses. What information do you require for those businesses?
So let's go down to the assessment. Part C.
D.
Oh, this is D.
That's at the end.
Or is it I've got A, the services map, B, the business map, and C, the geographical map. What's D?
D, what, you haven't got D? D was the different business. I think it said do at least 5 different businesses and associations.
Include at least 5 businesses or associations?
Yeah, that's in part B.
B. Yeah.
It was in D in mine.
Oh my goodness. All right. So I've taught this subject. Let me just go back.
Yeah.
Sometimes things change from year.
But I got it from the template that you put in.
Yeah, I'm just going, and that's a template that I've developed before.
Oh, okay.
And so I'm just making sure that the current
That part.
Yeah. So there's been some changes. Okay. So they put the economic and business map. That's all right. So create a list of local business clubs, association that young people in your area. This may include food service, recreational clubs, and sporting association. Or include at least 5 businesses and association. Any relationship between this business and association. For instance, local sponsorship arrangements of a sports club or team. Based on this note, which businesses you might approach for sponsorship for any youth-related events you put on as a local youth worker during the year. So with this one, you're looking at businesses that you might target for sponsorship. So you might be looking at, and look, it wouldn't be sporting clubs normally, because normally they're looking for businesses to support them, right? But, you know, certainly it might be, and depending on how you feel, would you use the local Hungry Jacks, knowing that they serve up a lot of fatty food? Would you use maybe an employment agency? Would you use maybe local supermarket, fruit and vegetable shop? Would you use a sporting shop? Would you use, you know, that's the considerations that we're talking about, because we're looking at, would any of these businesses, you know, do they have any relationship with each other? for instance, does a local sponsorship arrangement of a sporting club or team. So if it is you know how some clubs or local sporting, grassroots sporting clubs have local businesses supporting them, is there something that you might go in and say, I notice that you support this particular club. I'm running this event. Would you be able to sponsor this and also speak to the club? Would you be able to be a part of this as well at some point? But you're looking at any relationships that might exist between any of the businesses that you might pick for sponsorship and where it might have any relation on what you're actually doing. So without sounding too confusing, how does that make sense? So you're looking for those clubs or associations or businesses that would have an association with young people. That's why you pick them. And do any of those businesses have affiliations with each other? You're noticing the links that might occur in your local area.
So do we do it up as like a table and like what information do you require on the specific businesses? Like obviously their name. Do we have to give addresses or anything like that?
You don't have to give addresses. So we're going into it. So it's under point 4, collaborations or shared resource between groups, agencies, or businesses are identified. See that one there? That's where this comes into play. And so if you're looking at your economic map, you're looking at the links that might exist between them. If someone sponsors them, or, what is the correlation, if any? But at least you're discussing that. And now I'm just going to jump in. Oh, wrong one, sorry. I'll just open this up. So I'll make sure that I'm not steering you wrong in any way. Okay. So list of businesses in your local area to utilise as customers, participants or employees. This may include food services, recreational clubs and sporting associations or entertainment venues. Include at least 5 businesses and associations. Note any relationships between them. Based on this, note which businesses you might approach. So it's lists. Yeah, this one was a table. Put together a table and just put all those businesses down. Note in your table any correlation. Yeah. So do you guys know how to put a table together?
Yeah.
Insert table. Yep. Draw table. And so just put in there your headers, business, what type of business it is, what it's related to, and then away you go, and that's fine. You just cut and paste it in that section, and where it is in your area. For that place, you might say just suburbs enough. You don't have to put down the absolute address. How does that sound?
That's good. Thank you very much.
You were the only 2 students in this class who have absolutely smashed this assessment. Hopefully everyone's watching out there in these recorded sessions. Be great to hear from you, even in the discussion forum, to say, I watched that and I understand what's going on. At least I know everyone's on track. That's it for this week, my friends. Take care. I will put up this recording just for future reference if you need it. But until next week, cheers.